Greetings, lovely people, and welcome to a discussion video about a news topic. I know, surprising, I'm a commentary channel, it doesn't do that often recently, but yeah, I'm going to just say before we get into it, I am going to be talking about something that I consider to be a tragedy. This video is going to be unmonetized. I'm removing monetization completely from it, just out of respect for those that have lost their lives in the event, I suppose. And yeah, this is not going to be a light-hearted episode. I'm sorry about that. I do have other things coming up later in the week that are a little bit more light-hearted, if that's interesting to you. But yeah, I'm going to roll the intro and we'll get into the actual topic itself. Okay, so last Friday, the 5th of November, we saw a tragedy take place at the Astroworld concert, which is Travis Scott's tour, essentially, over at Houston, and 8 concert goers have died, as well as many others have been injured. Currently, it's 8 concert goers are dead. As far as we know, there could actually be more. That's just the confirmed deaths. And this is very much a crowd control incident that has gone wrong with subpar security and just generally bad planning all around. The major conflict that has happened, and the reason why I decided I would actually talk about it, because I was going to kind of avoid covering this subject. I tend to not bother with mass casualty events until I realised, or rather was told by many people as I was discussing it on Twitter and a few other places, this could have in large part been prevented, but Travis Scott refused to stop the show early. And I will say, I still stand by original claims that I made around the fact that it's not really, at least not purely, Travis Scott's fault. Live Nation, who is the promoter for Astroworld, were aware of the deaths and injuries prior to actually doing anything about it. We had a lot of information get out around Live Nation and their response to it. Obviously, with them being the promoter, they have ultimate authority over whether an event like Astroworld continues on, and just individual shows, whether they are stopped midway through it all. And Live Nation did not make any effort to stop the concert. So, as much as, yes, Travis did have the power to stop the concert and didn't, Live Nation, as well as many other groups that I will somewhat get into, did equally have an opportunity to stop the event, and they just kind of refused to. So, as I said, it was a crowd control incident. Essentially, hundreds of fans stormed the main gate of the event, which realistically should never happen. And this is where the fact, I suppose, that the security was subpar comes into play. Under normal circumstances, no way would this many people be able to just walk or run up to an event and get through all the security barriers and just invade an event. This is such an unusual thing that we don't really have any other precedent for. There was an event, which I haven't looked up unfortunately, but I have been referred to this, The Who concert in the 70s, which had a similar outcome of people just storming the event and many people getting injured. I'm not 100% sure about that story in full, so I don't know if there was actually deaths involved in that, but that is apparently a very similar situation to what's happened here. Essentially, with the 50,000 people or more, we don't quite know, that ended up being in the event at the concert, it was just a case of overcrowding where there wasn't really enough space for that amount of people. This led to a lot of people essentially being suffocated by just being crushed between people, as well as a lot of people just being trampled. And as far as I'm aware, the majority of those that have died, it was due to trampling rather than suffocation or any of the other issues that have caused a lot of injuries throughout the concert. And the thing that I really didn't quite understand, because I'll be honest, I'm not a Travis Scott fan. I don't really know any of his songs. In fact, my biggest experience with Travis Scott and his music is from when he had a Fortnite concert, I think a year and a half ago, or maybe 2 years ago now. That's really the most interaction with his content, his music, that I've ever had. But there is a community around him that has the kind of, to use a different lyric, a go crazy, go stupid sort of attitude, this rage mode, which is something that I was familiar with, but I didn't realise how big of a thing it was within Travis Scott's fan base. The Ragers, which is what Travis Scott stans are referred to as, are very much that. They are Ragers. They are the kind of people to get really, really invested into anything, to, mosh pit even when it's not a mosh pit. And that just leads to so many further issues. And, of course, with this kind of being the brand identity of Travis Scott's community, Travis does not help any of this by the fact that throughout the show, he was saying that we want rage, and other catchphrases essentially to that effect, stirring the crowd to just continually act up and go crazy and rage, and it just caused so many issues for everyone. And as I said, it's not just the case of Live Nation and Travis Scott being at fault here. Drake was actually present at the event. He was performing a few songs, I'm not sure which one specifically, with Travis, and the mass casualty event actually occurred before Drake was even on stage. So while I can't blame Drake really for the events taking place, he should have been told that had happened, and if Drake had actually thought about the situation, he would likely have decided not to come on stage. As I say, we don't know the inner workings of what systems happened, what communications there were, because it honestly does feel like there was just a failure in communication throughout the entire set. It feels like Travis maybe just wasn't filled in on the full scenario, the full issue that was taking place, because at various points he could have stopped the event, at least temporarily, because of the fact that medics and other, medical staff were having to pick people up out of the crowd to get them away to seek medical attention. The only time he actually stopped the concert, and it was only temporarily, was because there was an ambulance trying to get through, so he made the crowd move out of the way for the ambulance. However, there were many times, including one during just midway through a song, where he kind of just stopped actually performing, just to kind of casually ask his audience, ask the concert goers, to just allow security or allow any other number of things that were trying to get through to help people to just get through. He gave up on a song halfway through with the beat still going in order just to ask people in the crowd to move out of the way. It's a really questionable scenario all around, because I am a musician, I'm a performer. I've never done a gig necessarily, but I've done many performances, and I couldn't imagine being on stage watching people be taken away on stretchers or carried away by medics and continuing to perform in any capacity. I wouldn't be able to handle that, because watching this happen, and there is footage of Travis actually looking directly at these people being carried away and continuing to perform, I wouldn't be able to deal with that. I would have to stop. And sure, depending on how bad of a situation it is, if it was as bad as this appears to be, and with 8 deaths, it clearly is a very bad situation, I don't think I'd be able to continue at all with that event, with that concert, with that gig, with that performance. Travis continually, even when he did take short breaks just to tell his audience to move out the way, he was just continuing on business as usual to just perform. And I understand when you're up on stage like that, it can be awkward to just stop. But it would have been the right thing to do, and honestly, knowing that the events were completely in his hands to control, it does really make me concerned for the kind of person that Travis is and the kind of role model he is to the thousands, the tens of thousands of fans that he has, the hundreds of thousands of fans he has around the world. It's just really concerning to me that something like this could happen with someone that I was discussing this with one of my friends. Travis Scott is potentially one of the biggest artists right now. Not just in hip-hop, but potentially just in music in general. There's not really any other artist right now that can match his popularity, other than, I guess, maybe something like BTS. But as a solo artist, he's unmatched. And seeing that he just has such disregard for the safety and well-being of his fans, of the Ragers, it's kind of sad. I would almost call it sickening, but I don't know. It just feels very bad. As a result of everything, Travis has cancelled Astroworld. It's no longer going ahead. None of the concerts following the Houston concert are going to happen, which I personally think is the right move to make, though I do think it's a little too late now, with 8 deaths already occurring. Travis also made a point that he's going to be paying for the funerals of those 8 died. But he did so in a way that I do actually think is sickening. He partnered up with a company called BetterHelp, who, to not get too deep into them, are essentially just a company that can set you up with a licensed psychiatric practitioner, a psychologist, that kind of thing, for any sort of mental health issues. And, yeah, by partnering with them, presumably getting paid to partner with them, he provided anybody affected by the concert with a month free, which is, honestly, it's just kind of a disgusting act. If Travis was just offering, a month worth of therapy to anybody who was at the event, and it wasn't some sort of collaboration with another company, I'd be like, okay, that it's a little hollow, it's a little bit of an empty gesture, but it's something. With him partnering up with another company, it just feels wrong. So realistically, in conclusion to this entire video, yes, he should have ended the show. The promoters should have ended the show. If he had ended it early, it could have caused a riot, and that would have potentially been even worse. But precautions should have been taken from the very beginning to prevent something like this happening at all. I won't have shown them in this because I think it's kind of rude and just generally I don't want to show it. But there are clips going around showing both what was happening towards the front of the stage with people just being crushed, as well as initially with the hundreds that stormed the concert just trampling each other, knocking over fences, and just generally just causing what I would call, personally, a riot. But that is everything that I want to talk about with this. It's an insane event to have happened, and quite honestly, I hope that I never hear about anything like this happening ever again. There's been some really weird theories, I suppose, going around talking about someone running around injecting people with a needle of fentanyl, as well as claims that there's been drug overdoses, and that was why people were passing out. I would hazard a guess, and I'd feel pretty confident in this, to say that is just false. Straight up, inaccurate, not at all relevant to the situation, and kind of offensive to those who have actually lost their lives in this catastrophe, in this tragedy. But on that note, that's going to be it for this video. Later this week, I have a review for Eternals going out, as well as a few reactions to a few trailers, so if that interests you, make sure to stay tuned. Hopefully, the next commentary will be a little bit more lighthearted than this one, though, looking at the news right now, I'm kind of doubting it. But in any case, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Stay safe out there.